What if an empire, one of the greatest in history, hid punishments so brutal, so grotesque, that even time itself tried to bury them? Pause. Tonight, we uncover the truth they didn't want you to see. Clapperboard background 0, 15 to 30. Slow, haunting flute music. The Ottoman Empire, a name that echoes through centuries of power, conquest, and glory. Stretching across 3 continents, ruling over millions, it was a world of grand mosques, golden palaces, and powerful sultans. But behind the beauty of Istanbul, behind the shining courts and elegant robes, there was another world, a darker one. Pause. A world where justice didn't just punish the body, it destroyed the soul. You see, maintaining control over such a vast empire wasn't easy. Rebellion was always a threat. Betrayal could come from anyone, soldiers, officials, even family. And so, the Ottomans created a system of justice, designed not just to punish you but to terrify. Pause. Because fear was more powerful than loyalty. Clapperboard rising mystery, 23500. Wind sound, distant echoes. But here's the question. Why do most history books barely mention what really happened in Ottoman prisons? Pause. Why are the most horrifying punishments hidden between the lines? Was it shame or something worse? Pause. Records exist but they're incomplete, distorted, sanitized. And yet, when historians dig deeper, when forgotten manuscripts are uncovered, a disturbing picture begins to form. A justice system where punishment wasn't just about law, it became a spectacle. A warning. A message written in blood. Clapperboard main events 5001000. Balance the silent executioners. Low drum beats. In the Ottoman court, there were men who carried out the Sultan's will. They were known as executioners, but they were unlike any you've ever imagined. Pause. They were often deaf and mute. Why? So they could never hear screams, never reveal secrets, never speak of what they had done. Pause. Imagine that. A man sentenced to death, standing before someone who cannot hear his pleas, cannot respond, cannot feel his desperation. Only silence. And then the rope tightens. Heartbeat sound intensifies. Balance the bowstring, a royal death. Dark music deepens. For high-ranking officials, even princes, there was a special form of execution. Not the sword, not the axe, but a silk bowstring. Pause. Why silk? Because royal blood was not meant to be spilled. Instead, it was slowly taken. Quietly, cleanly. A strangulation that could last minutes, sometimes longer. Pause. Imagine your final moments, not a quick end but a slow fatting, as the world goes dark inch by inch. Balance the cage of despair. Metal creaking sound. But death wasn't always the worst punishment. Sometimes they wanted you to live, to suffer, to be seen. Pause. Prisoners were placed in iron cages, hung in public spaces, left there for days, sometimes weeks. Pause. No food, little water, the sun burning their skin, the cold nights freezing their bones. Crowds would gather, watching, waiting. Pause. And the message was clear. This is what happens when you defy the empire. Clapperboard suspense building 10-00-12-00. Whispering wind sound. But all of this, all the executions, the cages, the silence, it was only the surface. Pause. Because hidden deep within Ottoman justice, there was something far more disturbing. Something rarely spoken of. Something so grotesque that even historians hesitate to describe it. Pause. And when you hear it, you may never look at history the same way again. Clapperboard ending, Part 1 cliffhanger. Dark music fades into a low hum. So ask yourself, was this justice, or was it control through terror? Pause. And if this is what we know, what horrors are still hidden, lost in time? Pause. In the next part we reveal the punishment so shocking. It was meant to erase a person not just from life but from memory itself. They silenced screams, they killed without spilling blood, they turned punishment into spectacle. Pause. But what if death wasn't the worst fate? What if the Empire had a way to erase you completely? Clapperboard the Hidden Truth BEGINS 02300. Low whispering wind. In the vast power structure of the Ottoman court, there was something more terrifying than execution. Because execution ends suffering. But what if suffering was the goal? Pause. Some prisoners, especially those accused of betrayal, were not immediately killed. Instead, they were erased. Not just physically, but socially, historically, spiritually. Pause. Their names removed from records, their existence denied, their families punished or silenced. It was as if they had never lived. Clapperboard the Palace PRISONS 300600. Dripping water sound, echoing footsteps. Deep within the walls of Topkapi Palace, beyond the beauty tourists see today. There were chambers. Dark, cold, forgotten. Pause. This was where political prisoners, rivals, and fallen officials were taken. No trials in public squares, no witnesses. Only whispers. Pause. Inside these prison cells, time stopped. Days blended into nights. The outside world disappeared. And for many, this was where their identity slowly dissolved. Clapperboard the KAFES, the Cage of Madness 600900. Low humming tension sound. There was a place known as the caves. Not a cage of iron, but a prison for the mind. Pause. Princes, potential heirs to the throne, were locked inside. Why? To prevent rebellion. To eliminate threats without bloodshed. Pause. Imagine being born into royalty, raised to rule, only to be locked away for years. Alone. Isolated. Watching life pass by through barred windows. Pause. Many lost their sanity. Some forgot how to speak, others forgot who they were. And if they were finally released, they were no longer the same. Clapperboard rising horror, punishment of the soul 9001200. Heartbeat slows, distorted. But here is where it becomes truly disturbing. Pause. Because Ottoman justice didn't just punish actions. It punished identity. Pause. In some cases, prisoners were subjected to humiliation so extreme that it destroyed their sense of self. Stripped of dignity, stripped of name, stripped of purpose. Pause. They became ghosts while still alive. And in a world where honor meant everything, this was worse than death. Clapperboard the twist, the truth history hid 12/00/1430. Dark music swells suddenly. Here's the twist. Pause. Many of these punishments were never officially recorded. Why? Because the Ottoman Empire was not just powerful. It was image-conscious. Pause. It projected strength, order, and divine justice. But behind closed doors, there was fear, paranoia, control at any cost. Pause. Historians believe that some records were deliberately destroyed to protect the legacy of the empire, to hide the truth from future generations. Pause. Which means what we know today might only be a fraction of what really happened. Clapperboard final build UP, 1430-1630. Wind intensifies, distant echo of chains. So think about it. How many people were erased from history? How many voices silenced forever? Pause. How many stories buried so deep that we will never find them? Pause. And if an empire, this Arabic Tain, Arabic thought, Arabic Farsi, yea, Arabic meme could hide such darkness, what does that say about history itself? Clapperboard ending, emotional close. Soft, haunting music. History remembers kings' victories, empires, but it often forgets the suffering behind them. Pause. The Ottoman Empire was he Mahanenus, powerful, legendary. But like all empires, it had shadows. Pause. And sometimes, those shadows tell the real story. They were erased, locked away, driven into madness. Pause. But what if I told you some of the most brutal punishments were not for enemies, but for family? Clapperboard, the law of survival, 0, 2330. Low 10 strings. In the Ottoman Empire, power was everything. And nowhere was it more dangerous than inside the royal family itself. Pause. When a new sultan took the throne, he didn't just inherit power. He inherited fear. Fear of rebellion, fear of betrayal, fear of his own brothers. Pause. Because every prince was a potential rival. Every brother a possible usurper. And in this deadly game, there could only be one winner. Clapperboard, the practice of fratricide, 33700. Heartbeat grows louder. To prevent civil war, a shocking law was enforced. A law that still haunts history. Pause. It allowed a sultan to execute his own brothers. Yes, his own blood. Pause. This brutal practice became widely known during the reign of maimed II. He legalized it, turning murder into state policy. Pause. The justification. To preserve order, one life may be sacrificed for the stability of many. Pause. But think about that. A young prince, woken in the middle of the night, dragged away by silent executioners, knowing his only crime was being born. Clapperboard, the night of silence, 7001000. Wind howling softly, footsteps echo. Imagine the palace at night. Dark corridors, flickering torchlight. And footsteps. Slow, heavy, inevitable. Pause. The executioners arrive. No shouting, no chaos. Only silence. Pause. A silk bowstring wrapped around the neck. And within minutes, another prince gone. Pause. No funeral, no mourning. No history. Clapperboard, the most infamous moment, 10001300. Dark orchestral swell. One of the most chilling moments came under maimed III. When he became sultan, he ordered the execution of 19 of his own brothers. Pause. 19. Children, teenagers, young men. All killed in a single night. Pause. Their bodies buried quietly. Their names fading into silence. Pause. Can you imagine that kind of fear? Living in a palace where your own brother could become your executioner. Clapperboard, rising tension, fear as a weapon, 13001530. Heartbeat becomes uneven. This wasn't just punishment. It was a message. Pause. A warning to everyone in the empire. No one is safe, not even royal blood. Pause. And it worked. Rebellions decreased, order was maintained. But at what cost? Pause. Because behind the throne, there was always blood. Clapper board the twist, mercy or madness. 1530–1730. Soft eerie tone. Eventually, even the Ottomans began to see the horror of this practice. Pause. So they replaced execution with imprisonment in the caves. A more humane solution. Pause. But was it really mercy? Or just a slower form of destruction? Pause. Because instead of dying quickly, princes now lived for decades. In isolation, fear, and heat. Tuten enus. Pause. Some emerged broken, some never emerged at all. Clapper board final build UP 1730–1900. Wind fades into silence. So what is worse? A quick death or a lifetime of psychological torment? Pause. Was this justice evolving or simply changing its face? Pause. And how many rulers sat on the throne, carrying the weight of Arabic half, Arabic ta, Arabic lamb, of their own blood? Clapper board ending, emotional close. Soft haunting piano. Empires are not just built on victories. They are built on choices. Pause. And sometimes, those choices leave scars that history tries to forget. Pause. But the truth remains, hidden in the shadows of power.